Oh,
I'm just, recognizing that really and truly, as a people, we should really be embracing those action words so that we can demonstrate love.
That's
look
good.
at
That's
you. I
exciting.
love it. I love it.
Yeah,
I'm
for
so
this
excited,
week.
Dr. Grace, this week for this week's guest presenter. I can't wait for us to bring him out. But you mentioned something earlier about the statistics, the alarming statistics with marriages. And one of the perspectives that our guest speaker brings to the conversation this evening is the whole matter of how the Christian experience should play into our relationships. And I think that it will make for a great discussion this evening, because you would think that because Christians have Christ, that you wouldn't have failed marriages going on in Christendom, but that's far from true. So that's part of what I'm looking forward to hearing delve into a little bit more about what difference is Christ really making in the or what difference should Christ make in the love relationship. So I'm looking forward to that.
Well, I'm excited to know so much, and we have already decided for our listeners we are not going to have that preliminary discussion before we bring on our guests, because our experience, what they say, experience teaches wisdom. And because he is so well versed on the topic and he's so excited about sharing, we are going to give majority of the time to have him speak with us this afternoon. So we want to welcome those of you who are here. Just give us a little shout out, tell us where you're from, put it in the chat where you're from, and tell us what you're expecting. Start writing your questions ahead of time so that we can have a very good conversation. One of the things that I heard our guest presenter mention in the promotional video, it bothered me to think that so many people are getting married. Or one of the things, you mentioned, nobody gets married to get divorced. And so many things are happening around us. I recall the story of a very good friend, I would say now, who, when she was at age to be married, a very prominent, significant, prominent gentleman approached her. And everybody would have thought, because in that circle where that happened, a lot of persons were just throwing themselves on that gentleman. Everybody wanted him, the tall, dark, handsome, and the, robust kind, and very intelligent, and all of that. And I remember having a conversation with the individual, and the person looks at me and said, listen, I want to have a family. I don't just want to get married. And the person
style is very, I mean, he makes a compelling case for why marriages can work. And I'm looking forward to the discussion. So let me just go ahead without further ado and just bring Pastor Frank Legette into the studio. Are you ready? Are you ready? Now, I want to tell you guys that I am going crazy over this beard thing that he has going on. I don't know about anybody else. I'm used to Pastor Legette's beard, so it's very interesting to watch him do that. But great to have you.
Look, I am absolutely honored to be here with you incredible ladies. So the pleasure's all mine.
Wonderful. Pastor Legette, I know that I know who you are, and lots of people who are watching right now may have questions. Who is this guy? So for the benefit of those who are online right now, can you just give a brief introduction of who Pastor Legette is and tell us, because I know you have a story, but what qualifies you to sit in this chair this evening to tell us about marriage?
Wow. I am in my 28th year of marriage. This is my second marriage. My first wife, after 12 years, decided she no longer wanted to be married. I didn't see it coming. It ripped my heart out. And I had to pick up the pieces along with a bunch of good people. But after that, I set myself down because I knew that I was the marrying kind, and I knew I wanted to be married again. And I did an inventory, and I wanted to know, what did I do to contribute to the situation? And I was really, really, really honest with that process. And so I have been, I obviously I'm a pastor. And I've been pastoring for 30 plus years, and working with singles, working with married couples, divorcees, et cetera, et cetera. In fact, 16 years ago, I had an experience whereby it birthed a ministry that I have just for women. Look, I believe that women are the most incredible people on planet Earth, with very few exceptions. All right. And the Holy Ghost said to me, Legette, call your daughter. And he identified which one. And so I just happened to be standing near the phone. I picked up the phone and I called her. And typically because she's an incredible young lady. She's my daughter, right? She's incredible. So, you know, we can make that connection. And so typically when she answers the phone, she says, "Hi, Pop." This day she did not. She answered the phone and she said, "Hello." And I looked up to heaven. I said, "Lord, not my daughter," because I knew what that meant. Anytime a woman experiences that kind of pain and it is not a tragedy, I knew it was a man. I knew it was a man. So I said to her, I said, "Look, when you get sick and tired of being sick and tired, call me. I'll fix this for you." And so we hung up the phone. She never told me what it was. 6 months went by. She's a grown woman. I wasn't going to chase her. And so 6 months went by. Phone rings. It's her. She said, Pop, I'm ready. I said, "You ready?" She said, "Yes." I said, "Hold your hand out, palm up." She said, "What?" I said, "You heard me. Hold your hand out, palm up, so you can see the white part of your hands." So she did that. I could feel the frown on her face. I said, "If you do what I tell you to do, how I tell you to do it, why I tell you to do it," I said, "I'm going to put that Negro right there in the palm of your hand." She said, "Get out of here." I said, You know what? It's okay if you don't believe me, but just do what I tell you to do." And I taught her one technique. Now, here's what I need everybody on the island of Jamaica to know and understand. I taught her one technique. I call it the nutcracker technique. If anything can resurrect a dead or dying relationship, this is it. I've seen almost miraculous stuff happen. I taught her that technique. She hung up the phone. She called the brother. She ended the relationship whom she had been chasing and pursuing for 2-3 years. She hangs up the phone. And in 20 minutes, he's knocking at her door, begging to get back in. She called me and screaming in my ears, "Papa, it works!" And I did this.
Wow.
And I couldn't take it anymore. I said, "I told you it was going to work." And then she said the words that nobody had ever said to me before. She said, because I started working with her, she said, "You need to write a book because women don't know the stuff that you are now teaching me." And my ministry was birthed from there, and I've been doing it, and here we are today.
And we love you for it, Pastor Legette. We love you for it.
So
Interesting.
from pain.
Yeah, from pain. And I will tell you that I've got a group of women. I have a coaching program just for women, and I got a group of women who have gone through the program. When they come to me, they're broken, they're in pain, they've been cheated on, whole 9 yards, right? Low self-esteem, no
It gives
The edge of our seats. Can't wait
Right.
to
So
hear some knowledge from you. But Dr. Grace, I'm going to give you a chance to go ahead with Dr. Bell.
right. I am so elated. I am thankful for what you have shared so far, Dr. Pastor Frank. Now, Dr. Bell, having listened to what's happening, we know that we are in a time of pandemic. Okay, everywhere you turn, there's COVID crisis, and there's so many things that are happening around us. But it appears as if the relationship crisis would pose more threat to our mental health than that which we are experiencing now during COVID. From a psychological perspective, what are some advice do you have for us. Share with us some. I'm sorry.
It happens.
Sorry about that. Share with us some positive that can come out of us having a healthy, positive personal relationship and family relationship, the pros and the cons. Talk to us about that.
Beings are gregarious beings, and they like to be socializing. So our relationships are very, very important to us. And so, for example, when we're in a good marriage, a good relationship, that helps to lower stress levels and give us a better resistance to even illness. And that's the truth. Give us a stronger sense of our mental wellness. And it also provides good emotional support, which can act as a reducer of depression and anxiety when we are in good marriages. And overall, it gives us a happy, more contented peace of mind when we are together. And financially too, when people are in a happy marriage, they pool together and they become richer both in wealth and spirit. So those are some of the good things that we can reap from a very good relationship. And the adverse is true, that if we are in bad relationship, it can send up our stress levels, and it can actually cause medical issues, because many of the underlying issues or the problems, medical issues that we have, come from our stress levels, high stress levels. So sadness, depression will come if we're not in a healthy and good interpersonal marriage relationship. So being in a good relationship is really good for our well-being.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm happy that you brought up that point, Dr. Bell, because right now I think we are talking about the whole subject matter of finding and keeping the love of our life. So we want to deal with that finding part, Pastor Legette, if you will. And you know, there are lots of single women and men who are probably out there listening to us tonight, and we want to find out from you, Pastor Legette, what are some of the specific advice that you would offer to those single people that are preparing to get into a relationship? How can they best prepare to do that?
First, it's real simple. First and foremost, you've got to do it because when you do it God's way, you will be blessed. You will be the beneficiary. Even if you are not a child of God, but if you follow his blueprint, you will be blessed. So, but if you violate the blueprint, and scripture is real clear, when you violate God's blueprint, when you violate his word, you will suffer consequences. So now let me share with you the blueprint, because God has established a blueprint to ensure our marital and relational happiness. He has created a blueprint for that purpose. There were two institutions that were created in the Garden of Eden. The very first was marriage. The second was the Sabbath. And so God created marriage for our benefit so that we would be happy. So let me take you to a text. Just begin to lay the foundation of the blueprint here. Got to take you to Ephesians chapter 5. The Apostle Paul is the author of the book. He's writing to the church, to the saints in Ephesus. He is making a comparison and an analogy between how Christ treated his wife, and his wife was the church. The analogy was between how Christ treated his wife and how we husbands ought to treat our wives. He shared some poignant things that unfortunately many of us in the church are not abiding by. In fact, we're doing just the exact opposite. I'm going to show you in a minute. And so, if we let me share this text with you. It's Ephesians chapter 5 verse 25, and I want you to listen carefully to the words. And there are two words in here that if you have something to write with, I literally want you to write them down. So here we go. Husbands. Two key words. First key word, love your wives, even as Christ also loved the church, and second key word, gave himself for it. All right? Husbands, key word, love your wives, even as Christ also loved the church and gave, second key word, himself for it. So the blueprint demonstrates that there are two key factors in really implementing and following God's blueprint. The first is that God called the husband to be the lover. It said, husbands, love your wives. It did not say, wives, love your husbands. Why? Because you never have to tell a wife to love her man, ever. And there's no, and he doesn't. He tells a man to do that. In fact, in Ephesians 5, he says it 3 times. Husbands, love your wives. So men were destined by God to love our wives. And the second thing is that text shows is that the husband is the giver. John 3:16, for God so loved that he gave. So the husband is both the lover and the giver in the relationship. I've got one more text for you. It comes from 1 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 7. I'm going to add the third piece. There's one more word that I want you to add to create this triumvirate. Here it is. 1 Corinthians 5:7. Purge out therefore the old leaven, that ye may be a new lump, even as ye are unleavened. For even Christ, our Passover, is sacrificed for us. So now I'm going to create a new word here out of this word sacrifice. So the Ephesians 5:25 says, Christ is the lover, Christ is the giver, and in 1 Corinthians 5:7 it says that Christ is the sacrificer. So the husband is the lover, the giver, and the sacrificer. That's the blueprint, ladies. God has put the onus, if you want to have a happy marriage, if you want to have a happy relationship, the husband, the man, is the lover, the giver, the sacrificer, the pleaser in the relationship. And his wife, here's the analogy, his wife, the church, was the one being loved. His wife, the church, was the one receiving the love. And his wife, the church, was the one being sacrificed for. But here's the problem. Here's the problem. In most of our marriages, we are upside down in our marriages. We are upside down in our relationships. How so? Because in most of our marriages and relationships, women are the lovers, women are the givers, women are the sacrificers, and women are the pleasers. If the Garden of Eden, if nothing else, if the only story you look at, it comes from the Garden of Eden experience with our very first parents. If it teaches you anything, it is that you cannot compromise God's word without suffering consequences. That is exactly what's happening to families all over the world, even husbands and wives in the church. They are upside down in their marriages. I can't tell you the number of individuals who come to me, and the husband is the wife, and the wife has assumed the role of the husband. I I can't stress that enough. We are upside down in our relationships. Therefore, there's unhappiness. Because a woman will readily tell you, as they tell me quite often, Pastor Legette, I did not expect to wear the pants in this family. I want my husband to be the man. And when you invert those roles, you create all kinds of problems in the family. So what are we supposed to do as men? We are supposed to love our wives. Not just how we want. Here's the key, because here's what I teach the lady who's come through my program. We are supposed to love our wives, Shauna, the way they want to, the way you want to be loved. Not how I want to love you. Because if I love you the way you want to be loved, I get it right every single time. But if I love you the way I want to love you, if I love you the way I know to love you, if I love you the way I learned it from my boys in the street, we're going to have a mess on our hands.
Dr. Legette.
Yes, ma'am.
I feel your passion. I feel the passion. I feel it. But I want to ask you a question before you go on. What are some reasons that some marriages last for a lifetime while others don't? Because you gave us that blueprint of the successful marriage.
Yeah.
Well, what's going on why they don't last?
Well, I've already named one. One thing is many couples are upside down in their relationship, right? They've inverted the roles. The wife has become the husband. Look, I did a retreat at the Southeastern Conference, a women's ministry retreat, and I cannot tell you the number of women and wives who came to me, and here's what they said. Here's what they complained. Pastor, my husband won't work. He lost his job 4 or 5 years ago, and because he cannot find a job in his field, he won't go get another job to compensate. So here's what many women have to do. They go to work, then they come home, and they go to work again in the house because they got to cook, they got to take care of kids, pay bills, whole 9 yards, while he's laying in the cut watching TV. And the heaviest thing he picks up all day is a remote control. And then they said, so I got to cook and clean, take care of the kids, make sure they're okay before I go to my second job. And when I'm not at my second job, I'm back in school because now I've got to compensate for the income that he doesn't bring anymore. All right. So people, men and women, are inverted. They're exchanging roles to the detriment of the family. That's another thing. Another option, another problem is this. When you get married, ladies and gentlemen, divorce cannot be an option. My wife and I settled that issue a long time ago. Divorce cannot be an option. So how do you come into marriage? I guarantee you, ladies and gentlemen that's listening, I guarantee you that if you came to me and you were having some issues, the two of you, husband and wife, you came to me, you were having some issues, I would take you to Cape Kennedy in Florida, and I would put you in a space rocket, and I would launch you into outer space to launch you towards the nearest star. Well, first and foremost, you would be in that rocket for the rest of your life. And let's say that rocket was no bigger than a living room or a bedroom. Mm-hmm. And it's just the two of you for the rest of your life. You know what I can guarantee? I guarantee you that you two Negroes will not get divorced.
Why? Why can you do that?
Because you don't have anybody else. You don't have any other options. That is the only way that you are going to be successful in a marriage. So that when there's an affair, you can overcome the affair. When there's a letdown, you can overcome it because you both have been, and it's got to be both. It can't be one. You both have made up in your mind. I love you. I want to spend the rest of my time with you. So if we fall on hard times, you know what we're going to do? We're going to work it out. We're going to figure this out. But we are going to stay together. With that mindset, you can overcome anything.
You're muted, Dr. Bell.
Yeah, Dr. Legette, in my experience as a clinical psychologist and dealing with couples, what I have discovered is that many times couples enter a marriage not marrying to the person that has the qualities that they want. They went with a feeling, not looking at the qualities. They just went with a feeling. And then when they go in the marriage and they're in there, what I have noticed, they spend, if you're married like 20 years, you spend the 20 years trying to reshape and remold this person into who you want the person to be. So oftentimes in my practice, I ask them to make a list in terms of physical, emotional, financial that they would want. And invariably when they come up and they make that comparison with who they have now, the realization is that, wow, no, these are not the qualities. I've been trying to remake this person into who I want. What do you say about that?
Well, that's a prescription for disaster.
I agree.
Because, that's a prescription for disaster because you're not God. God created the individual. So you cannot put on your God cap and gown and recreate them in your image. It doesn't work that way. Here's the problem. Many people don't do appropriate counseling. I will say this to you. I have a process and I start all the women off the same way. I walk them through a process. I call it's a technique. Now, I don't teach theory. I teach time-tested and life-changing techniques. And the first technique I teach everybody is the real man technique. I will tell you that as a part of that process, I have women do an inventory. And I've never met one woman who has ever known what she was looking for, what she wanted, what turned her on, what turned her off. I don't know what they're thinking about, but they don't go through the process. And so most of my work is done with singles. So I have them to go through the process because you don't want to discover after you walk down the aisle and you say I do, that you should have said I don't to before the wedding. It's too late. So then you've got to do whatever you can do to try and make it work. All right. And quite often as the statistics show, they just don't work because they don't have the mentality. All right. So we need to take time before the wedding to do as much thinking and praying and communicating and getting counsel. Go to individuals like you, Dr. Bell, or women can come to me and I will walk them through a process. As much time as you can spend in that process before. Okay? And then you need to be getting counsel from individuals in your inner circle. Your family, your close friends are not going to steer you wrong. All right? And then you got to listen to that voice. Women have God speaks to women in a language that we don't understand. He speaks to women on a frequency that we can't hear. It's called a woman's intuition. Right?
Good point.
Yeah. It's a frequency we don't understand. And so God is consistently talking to you. And sometimes God said, girlfriend, I know you want to be married. I know you're in mid-30s. I know you think you're about to be over the hill, but girlfriend, that one ain't the one.
He ain't the one.
He ain't the one.
The
Okay,
one.
just be patient. Be patient. I will bring him. But unfortunately, many of these sisters don't want to be patient. They don't want to wait on God. And then when you kick God to the curb, and you decide, you know what, Lord, I'm doing this on my own.
Listen.
And then you end up broken, and then you want to bring God the mess and want him to fix it.
Listen, Pastor, you're preaching tonight, you know.
I know.
It's not only preaching, it's throwing out all the questions that I had in my mind, because before I ask, he's answering. The truth of the matter is that there are so many of us who we do not listen to that still small voice. And what I appreciate about you is your openness and sharing with us from a man's perspective. And you are at that point where you can appreciate that, you know, men and women are on two different wavelengths, you know, but how many men understand that? They see the woman that they marry as their property. Yeah. They see them as their life insurance coverage. They see them as their brinks. They see them as so many different things, and not as a soulmate or a mate as God would have intended. How do we treat with that kind of mindset for the male to appreciate? As a matter of fact, I think both sides, because there are some females who have those same issues. You know, you did mention some things already, but can you zero in and share some specific ways in which we can transform that thinking and build our self-image so that we can appreciate who we are? So when we come as a couple, we are not coming as my second half or my other half. It's a whole person joining with a whole person.
Let me share this. There are 7 roles that God requires men to fulfill in the relationship. All right? From scripture, there's 7 of them. The first is head of the home and servant leader. Okay? Head of the home and servant leader. He's not a dictator. He's not a boss. He's not a tyrant. He's the head of the home, but he is the servant leader in that family. All right? Here's the problem. Here's the problem with many women, whom I think are the greatest people on planet Earth. Yeah, with very few exceptions.
Keep saying that.
Yeah. With very few exceptions, women are the greatest people on the planet. We don't even compare. The average man cannot compare with the average woman. There's no comparison. But here's the problem. If you look at Titus chapter 2, the Apostle Paul is talking to his protege, Titus. And he says, starting with verse 4 and 5, he says, the older women must teach the younger women how to love their men. So in biblical and ancient times, older women passed down knowledge to the younger women, how to be in a relationship with a man and get what she needs in that relationship to be happy. Here's a fact of life. Most of us are on cloud 30. Most guys are on cloud 36 in the relationship. Why? Because you work to put us on that cloud. You want us on that cloud. Here's the problem. Most of us don't turn around and reciprocate that kind of love. So many of you are on minus 36 while we're on plus 36. And so women are coming into relationships, and no one has taught you how to be in a relationship with a guy and have it to be a two-way affair, so that she is receiving from her man the love that she is giving to her man. I have not worked with one woman who knows how to do that. So I teach them in my coaching program. And when they get done, so some teaching has to be done. And unfortunately, about 70 years ago, mothers stopped passing on that knowledge to their daughters. And so now you've got women, you've got these young ladies who are graduating from high school and they're coming into their 20s and they're entering the dating game, and they have no clue that the average brother has cut his teeth in terms of what he knows about women. He's learned it in the street. Well, if it's come from the street, excuse my English, ladies, it ain't no darn good. Right? If it's coming from the street, he does not know how to treat her. And so she's coming into this relationship with him. And what he's learned about treating from a woman, he's learned from his boys on the corner. And she doesn't know how to be in a relationship and get from him what she needs to be happy, because she is going to make him happy. And so after a while, even though it might be cute for her to have a man on her arms, she ultimately becomes frustrated because she's not getting what she needs. So women need to be educated, and that's what I do in my program.
Love it. Love it. So, you know, Pastor Legette, one of the things that we wanted to talk about, because there's no discussion that can take place on marriage without talking about the whole bedroom story and the role that sexual intercourse play in that marriage. But I want to sort of change my question up a little bit and ask you, because can it be a situation where the damage that's done in the relationship and the resentment that has built up over time can lead you to a place where it's almost impossible for you to get to that place where you feel like you want to have that sexual connection with a partner? Because we know that, you know, that's one of the gifts that God gave for the marriage. It was given to married people by God for them to enjoy marriage, right?
Yes.
But there are things that can happen in a relationship, whether it be the way that you speak to me, the way that I speak to you, the things that you do, the things that you are not doing, that can impact that. And I want to know if for that couple that probably feel like it's past the point of no return at this point, where that level of intimacy, it cannot be restored. What hope do you have to offer in that kind of a situation? Can it be restored?
Well, let me say this. I've been there. And I had a wife who walked out, cheated, left me with the children, and I raised the children until they were grown. All right. And now I'm blessed to have an incredible wife. Lord bless me with Angela. All right. So I've been through that pain. But here's the problem. No one on planet Earth is ever taught what to do to save a failing marriage before they get married. Nobody knows what to do. Nobody knows where to go. Nobody knows what to say. And I will tell you from experience that everything that I said and everything that I did drove her further into his arms. If I knew then what I know now, situation may have been different. Okay? But there are things that can be done. I'm working with a client right now. And he said, I want a divorce. I'm out. I'm done. After 2 weeks working with her, he said, all right, let's work on this. 2 weeks. Right? So before then he was done. Mm-hmm. Okay? You've got to know what to say. You've got to know what to do. And you cannot settle for being a doormat, because doormats have one function. You know what that is? They get walked on.
Walked over.
Right? Mm-hmm. And so you've got to know what to say. You've got to know what to do to change that situation. over and over and over again. I've used that one technique that I use with my daughter, Nutcracker. If anything can restore a broken relationship or a dead relationship, that can, it will, it has. I've seen it time and time again, but you got to know what to do. It is not hopeless. And the reason why many people ultimately end up divorced, they don't know what to do. They don't have anybody to go to. And so everything they do is wrong, and it just pushes them further apart. But I'm convinced many of those can be restored.
All right,
if you're taught the right things to do.
I'm gonna tug your coattail along just one bit more. Give us one piece. Just give us a piece of what that framework looks like. One piece.
First and foremost, a woman, you cannot surrender all of your power you have to first respect yourself. All right?
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
You got to respect yourself. Number two, you cannot be fearful to confront dumb stuff. Many women in this situation are fearful of, okay, I know my husband is cheating, but if I say something, he might leave me and go to the other woman. Well, no, you're laying down, you're asking him to walk all over you. No, you got to confront. Now, there's a way to do it. All right, there's a way to do it without getting nasty. And let me say this: if you're cussing, fussing, fighting, feuding, throwing temper tantrums and tearing the house up, we don't, that doesn't resonate with us. All we do is tune that stuff out. Okay? But you've got to sit down with him, and you've got to be able to use reverse psychology is what I teach, and you can't be afraid of confronting the stuff that he's doing, and you have to respect yourself, and you have to draw a line in the sand. I'm sorry, okay? If you want her, you can have her, but we are not going to stay in this relationship, and you're not going to take her, you're not going to go sleep with her and then come home and sleep with me. That ain't happening, okay? If you don't respect me, I respect me. You gotta have self-respect. Okay, because if you don't, there's no reason why he should.
Exactly.
Okay? And it's a game changer. When women stand up for themselves, it's a game changer. It's like it's the same as this. You got a bully in the schoolyard, and he's punching all the kids in the face, and he goes to punch one kid in the face, and the kid punches him in the face. What happens? He then respects that child. Why? Because that child stood up to him. Even though he may have gotten beaten down afterwards, he stood up to him. Ladies, you got to stand up for yourself.
Yes.
You have to.
So in other words, well, simplifying, you've got to be the person you want the other person to be.
Absolutely. Look,
so don't try to change and to make him or her into what you want to be. You be it.
Only God can
chased to be chased.
And what Scripture says, you model to him right behavior, and then let God do the rest.
So he's looking to you to learn how to treat you.
Yeah. All right. And you have to insist. Here's important. All the women who come through my program, they know and they understand this. You must say to your man, I want to be loved the way I want to be loved, and not the way you have been loving me. And when you love me the way I want to be loved, this can work. That's got to be your mindset, ladies. It's part and parcel of everything that I teach. And when women grasp that, their relationships change. And they go to another level, because he is forced to change if he's going to stay in that relationship and have all the benefits. Okay. Now, my wife teaches me, and ladies, you got to settle one thing. There's some things that you're going to have to teach your man. And there's nobody on planet Earth that knows how you want to be loved more than you. You have to teach him how to love you the way you want to be loved. My wife has taught me a lot of things. Here's what my wife has taught me. Intimacy does not start in the bedroom at night. Intimacy starts in the morning. So girlfriend said to me when I moved some family members in, girlfriend said, Frank, breakfast is yours. So every morning I get up, I fix breakfast, I serve breakfast, I wash the dishes, and I sweep the floor. Why? Because intimacy starts in the morning. Cause so when I go in the bedroom at night,
hallelujah.
amen, amen. And look, and let me tell you this. And let me tell you this. I could talk to you about how important sex is to a man. We are identified with our sexuality.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Our sexuality identifies us. A man was created to have a sexual release every 72 hours. We're not dogs. Right? We were created by God to have a sexual release every 72. I could spend tomorrow the same time talking about how important sex is to us. But we got to come correct, because women, you are incredibly emotional beings. And if we don't treat you right, then we don't get our bottom line. And everybody can be happy. And I tell you what, I like being happy every now and again. I'm telling you right now. I want my children to close their ears, but I like being happy a couple of times. Well, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. Pastor. Wow, this has been good so far, and I know we could sit here for the rest of the evening to have these kinds of conversation. And I just want to add to what you've said in terms of being intimate. It's a mind thing. It's not. It's more psychological than physical. And so that's why the respect is key. That's why that is so important. And so when you are able to be happy, you should be able at the end of the happy moment saying, hallelujah, praise ye the Lord. Yeah. And you should be able to, Lord, for what we're about to receive, we give you thanks.
I give you thanksgiving.
Not in harmony with God and with your partner, that can't happen.
Lord, I received this with thanksgiving, Lord.
No, we have passed our time for the speak up segment, but I notice a lot of comments have been made and some of them have been posted. And we are so grateful for our listeners. So we are going to ask you, listeners, as long as you have a burning question, please post it now. We have just another few moments to wrap up this exciting discussion on finding and keeping the love of your life. And I've added for a lifetime and even through eternity. If you haven't yet done so, please subscribe to this channel so that the notification will come to you as soon as we post another video. And so we have this afternoon with us Pastor Frank Legette. I had to use the veggie linkage to remember your name, but I think I did very, very well, didn't I? It's been great having discussion with you, and so far we have learned what it is, how we can secure love. You know, self-disclosure, I knew love. I met my true love, but we never ended up together. I can't tell the story now. It's a beautiful story, and I know that until now we are still in love. But as we speak about love, can there be a situation where you have a breakup and even a divorce, but you are still in love? And if that's so, how do you get through? And you notice I said through because as a grief therapist, I can't say over. How do you get through that pain of separation?
And again, I was there. When my first wife left and moved in with the guy, I didn't see it coming. I loved her dearly. It wiped me out. And it took me years. There are, just several things that needs to be done. But first and foremost, here's what doesn't need to happen. And if you do it, it's going to make a mistake and you're going to hurt somebody. Number one, you don't need to make somebody a rebound, because here's what we do. We get hurt in one relationship and we feel like, okay, I'm hurt, everybody's looking at me, I'm embarrassed, this person just walked out on me, they don't want me anymore. Well, I've got to prove that I'm still valuable, so I'm going to jump right in this other relationship. Well, you're going to make a mistake, because you're going to hurt somebody, right? Because oftentimes when we make them a rebound, it is not really the person we want to be with, or even, so certainly not to spend the rest of our lives with, but we're just self-medicating at the time. And then when we start to heal, we end that relationship. And so we end up creating a domino effect of hurt people. So what I recommend is you really got to sit yourself down and heal. Don't go into any relationships. That's number one. Take time to heal. Number two, do an inventory. Like I did the inventory of myself, and I was honest, and I knew that I created much of that situation. I mean, I wasn't a cheater, but I knew there were things I could have done better. So what did you do to contribute to the failing of the relationship, if anything? And be honest with yourself. And sometimes it's not you, sometimes it's them. All right. But you've got to be able to do that inventory, and you got to do a lot of praying and being around people, and you want people who are going to be honest with you. You don't want just surround yourself with people who are going to tell you what you want to hear, but people who love you and are going to be honest with you. Those are the three things that I absolutely recommend. Do a lot of praying and a lot of reading. Invest yourself in being the best person you could be going forward.
Yeah, Pastor Legette, one of the questions that came up in the chat is, when would you say that a marriage is is past the point of no return? Okay,
let me say this. Young lady called me, Pastor, I need your help. And I tell everybody to come to me. There is a point of no return. When is that point? In her situation, he had moved out of the house. He had moved in with his girlfriend. His girlfriend was pregnant. And she called me during the week, and they were getting married that Sunday. I would dare say that's past the point of no return. Okay? Other than that, because I've seen when you know what to do and know what to say and know what not to do and know what not to say, and when the Lord is in it, and when you approach it directly, there is no hard and fast cutoff point. There just isn't. I've worked with people who were done. And when I taught the woman what to do and I coached her, it revived and resuscitated that marriage. So there is no hard and fast. There isn't one. You just got to take each situation on its own merit. You're talking and you're praying and you're talking to the Lord, asking him for guidance and direction. And when you know what to do as well as what not to do, some incredible things can happen. But there is no definitive, all right, he said this, he said that, marriage is over. No, because there's still a God. There's still a God you're praying to, and he's still in the miracle working business. He can change anything.
Wonderful. Excellent.
Yeah. Another question here. What do you recommend to say to a young man who does not want to accept your rejection?
If you is the question that a woman has rejected him, and he does,
Yes.
and he cares about her so much. Look, the one thing you don't want to be is a stalker. Okay, you don't want to be a stalker. I would just be nice, gifts, and prayer, and continue to do nice things if you can. But at some point, if she's insistent, You just may have to accept the inevitable. But if you can stay close enough by and continue to be an incredible guy, maybe her eyes will be open. Maybe she's in a relationship, and maybe at some point that relationship ends, and she will see how incredible you are. That has happened a gazillion times. So don't easily give up, but at some point you just might be forced to. If she's consistent, she doesn't like you, she doesn't have those kind of feelings for you, sometimes you just have to accept the inevitable.
Thank you so much. Go ahead.
Dr. Bell, you want to put that question to Pastor Legette?
Yes, this one says, after many heartbreaks, how can a person fall in love with one they are in a relationship with now?
Look, all men are not dogs, and all men are not the same. Okay?
Good boy.
We're not all the same. And so it takes a lot of prayer. It takes listening to that voice that God speaks to you with. Okay, it takes a lot, getting a lot of counseling, spending a lot of time. Here's the problem: people get married so quickly that they fail to realize that when we first meet each other, we want to show you our best side. We don't want to show you our hind side, right? We don't want to show you the stuff that's going to turn you off. So if you don't date long enough for that person to get comfortable so that they relax and allow you to see all their warts, then you're not going to see them until after the wedding. Then it might be too late. You got to date long enough. And I'm not saying date forever. All right. You don't have to date 3, 4, 5, 10 years. All right. That's because that could be a waste of your time if they decide to go in another direction. But you need to spend enough time so that they're comfortable, and then they let their guard down, and they allow you to see as much of them as you can see without living in the same household. Because when you get married, you're gonna see it all, right?
Okay.
But then it's too late. You want to find that out if they're Mr. Wrong before the wedding. So you got to spend enough time.
And I think too, we need to leave some of the baggages behind. Don't bring them into the other relationship, because we're putting it on somebody who may not be that person.
Absolutely.
So learn how to see what's in front of you, what you're dealing with currently, rather than bringing a baggage. Like you said, people come in with this kind of private logic or mistaken belief that men are dogs. And so everybody is lumped into that category. No, they should really look at what's happening on the ground and deal with that and leave that baggage behind. Do the work to leave the baggage behind.
That also ties in, Dr. Bell, nicely with what some people do. They come into the marriage with a certain level of expectation. It could be they expect that they are going to be treated the way they have been treated before, or it is that they expect some miraculous formula to happen for joy and happiness forever. But there are no formula out there except following what God says and ensuring that you stick to the principles and support each other to grow, and you grow with each other. So you teach yourself, teach each other how to love, how to appreciate, and how to share, and what you like, your dislikes, and so on. It's been an amazing evening, and we are really beyond our time limit, and it feels as if we have just started. So we are going to be gracious enough to accept no more than 2 additional questions, and then we will definitely need to wrap up. Pastor, we may have to consider bringing you back to
Anytime.
to talk about some more of these practical ways in which to build a relationship. So, as Shauna, I'll ask you to bring those questions up, and then we'll ask to give at least 3 very, very practical ways in which we can build our relationship, finding the love, sustaining the relationship for a lifetime.
Yes. Pastor, there's a question here from Whitney, and this is a very important question. Sometimes we don't know the difference between what love is, what infatuation is, and what possessiveness is. You know, there's a thin line there. Sometimes a person will be all over you, and you're thinking, "Oh, he really loves me," but where can we how can we identify whether what's really happening is love, infatuation versus possessiveness?
Well, I would say that how's it making you feel? You are the arbiter here. You're in control here. How are you feeling about how you are being treated? Are you loving it? Number one. Number two, your inner circle, your family. And your inner circle needs to be a part of this process. When they look at this guy, this potential mate for life, are they feeling and thinking what you're feeling and thinking? If you are bringing this individual and he's a thug, right? And he puts you on blast in Front Street, he'll put his hands on you and you are all in love, your eyes are all, your nose is all wide open, and you bring him around your family and your family is saying, girlfriend, come here. Something's wrong with this picture. Okay. So not only is it about what you're thinking and feeling, how is he treating you? Are you comfortable with it? But how is your inner circle? How is your family thinking about it? Are they comfortable with what they are seeing and hearing? Because your family who loves you will never steer you wrong when you feel he's the greatest ever and they think he's the greatest ever, then he just might be the greatest ever. All right. But you gotta have some safeguards, but it starts with you. How are you feeling about how he's treating you, how he's responding to you? Does it feel good to you? Are you feeling respected and loved? Are you free in the relationship? Or do you have to give an account for every way you go, every dime you spend, everybody you talk to? No, that's prison. All right. And that's not the kind of relationship you want to be with. There has to be some trust and respect. If not, you may be with the wrong guy.
Thank you. I think, yeah, I appreciate that. There's another question, but I think in part you would have answered it, but I'm going to read it, coming from Roberta, asking us to speak to people who have a prefixed vision of what marriage should be rather than what works for the partners. Access his phone, gets his credit card, goes shopping for fun, and man has to take care of her. What are your thoughts about that? Speak to those kinds of issues for us.
Marriage is a partnership, right? Marriage is a partnership. And we should all feel good about what we are bringing in the partnership. And I believe that the purpose of marriage is that I need to elevate you. I need to elevate my woman and my wife and put her on a pedestal. And I do believe that when I do that, she will be so grateful that she will reach down and pull me up so that I can be on a pedestal. Need to be treated. I believe that's what marriage is all about. Not this fixed idea, I'm putting you in a box that you've got to be this way, you've got to act this way, you got to dress this way, and if not, I can't love you. That's not what marriage should be, right? Marriage is about give and take. Marriage is about growth and development, and we should be growing closer together over time as opposed to growing further apart.
And I think too, Goodly Doctor, I think too, when we think of possession, we think that ownership. So I don't think anybody owns anyone. So when you say this is my possession, it's like an ownership.
Yeah.
When we think of infatuation, it's really a fleeting feeling of love without knowing anything about the person.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing. And based on what you have been saying before, you need to know have that blueprint that says this is the way it should be. So anybody who's feeling like they're being owned, that's a
Not good.
control and possession. So you don't want to be part of that.
Yeah, that's a prescription for disaster.
For disaster.
Christ took a woman from Adam's rib for a reason, from his side, indicating she was an equal partner. She was not to be walked on. She was not his servant or slave. She was his partner, to be treated and loved equally.
Wow. My friend, you blew it out of the park. Just looking at the comments in the chat, it's very clear that we definitely have to plan a sequel for this evening's discussion. Dr. Grace, what do you say about that?
Of course, we will definitely have to continue this conversation. It is, but beyond that, I just want to ask Pastor Legette. I'm going to...
Legette.
Don't mess it up. That's Frank.
Dr. Grace, you've been doing, Dr. Grace, you've been doing good for the last hour. Bring the ship home, Dr. Grace. You've been doing great for the last hour.
Oh boy. Yes, we will bring you back. But beside that, can you share how do they reach you and that special gift that you have to offer those who would have been on this show?
Sure. There is an email address, and I think Shauna may have it. It's the women's with an S empowerment HQ at gmail.com. The women's empowerment HQ at gmail.com. Now, I've written a book. And I give away several chapters of the book to the ladies who requested. If you send me to that email address and request the chapters, I will be happy to forward those chapters to you. Here's the title of the book. It's entitled Mastering the Forgotten Art of Womanhood. The subtitle is this. Listen to this. Teaching your man to love you the way you want to be loved without him knowing he's being taught. And ladies, when you can do that one, you reach master status and your happiness quotient goes through the stratosphere. So here's what I'm going to do. For anybody, I've got an upcoming webinar. I've got a webinar coming up next Tuesday night. If you want to be a part of it, just say, I want to be.
Intimacy is an emotional thing for them. And so if one man or if the man treat them a certain way, they are not into that intimacy. So intimacy starts in the morning and leads right up into the evening.
And my wife said, if you don't work during the day, you don't work at night.
Wow.
Every now and then I like to play sometimes, so I got to work during the day.
That's my girl. That's Angela.
Yeah. So my takeaway is that he is still looking. When he shall have found me, I will make him the most happy man in the world.
Amen.
Send your application to Shauna K and she'll screen you because you can't get to me without you get through. Anyhow, that was meant for you to laugh and I laugh. I'm sure you had. It's been a pleasure this evening having this conversation with you. This is how we end this edition of Let's Talk Life and Legacy, a moment with Dr. Grace. And the greatest legacy that you can leave behind right now from this program is that you respect yourself, respect your spouse, love each other, live a wonderful life so that you can leave a legacy of good relationship for your children and those who will come to follow. May God bless you. May you have a wonderful life hereafter, and see you next time. We say,
Bye.
ta-ta.